A kidnapped little girl begged and triggered an unstoppable force. Why would 2,500 outlaws mobilize for one child? The answer lies in a secret decades-old oath, a debt of blood, and a promise that could shatter a city to save a single life. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The summer sun was fat and lazy over the quiet street where 10-year-old Maya lived. She was drawing with chalk on the driveway, a pink heart for her mom, Rita. She didn't see the white van until its side door slid open with a thunk. A man with a baseball cap jumped out. His hand clamped over her mouth. It smelled like cigarettes and oil. She kicked, she bit, but she was small. He threw her into the dark van. The door slammed. The van sped away. All that was left on the hot pavement was a broken piece of pink chalk. In her house, her mother Rita felt a cold chill. She called out the back door. "Maya, lunchtime." Silence. She walked to the front. The driveway was empty. Maya, her eyes saw the abandoned chalk. Her heart started to pound. Maya, her scream split the quiet afternoon. While Rita frantically called 911, the van was already crossing town lines. Inside, Maya cried, her face wet with tears. The man with the cap, a low-level thug named Leo, checked his phone, got the package, moving to the drop. He didn't know who the little girl was. He was just paid to grab her. He looked at her. "Stop your crying, kid. You'll be fine." But Maya wasn't just any kid. Her grandfather, Elijah, now 85 with hands still stained faintly with grease, was in his small garage apartment when his phone rang. It was Rita, hysterical. "Dad, she's gone. Maya's gone. Someone took her." Elijah's old heart, a strong drum that had survived war and prejudice, clenched like a fist. He didn't call the police again. He walked to a locked wooden box on his dresser. Inside, under old medals, was a single worn business card. No name, just a phone number handwritten in faded ink and a small, simple drawing of a winged skull. He picked up his landline phone, his finger trembling only slightly. He dialed the number. It rang once, twice. A gravelly voice answered. "Yeah." "Code Black," Elijah said, his voice steady but heavy with fear. "It's Elijah's girl, the youngest. She's been taken." There was a pause on the line, just a beat. The voice changed, sharpened. "Location, now." Elijah gave him the address. The line went dead. In a sleek, modern condo overlooking the city, a man named Daniel Doc Henderson ended the call. He was in his late 60s, but built like a wall, with a close-cropped gray beard and eyes that had seen too much. He was wearing a silk robe. A woman named Elena, with dark hair and a playful smile, handed him a cup of coffee. "Trouble, my Amma." "Old debt," Doc said, his voice a low rumble. He walked to a secure laptop, typed rapidly, and entered a password, "Old Guard." A simple interface opened. He hit a single red button labeled Protocol E. Across the state, in clubhouses, garages, and legitimate businesses, phones buzzed and screens lit up with a simple, urgent message. "Old Guard. Converge. Grid lockdown. Recovery. Child. Location. Maya's address." The response was not a riot. It was a mobilization. James Joker Kowalski, a bear of a man with a laugh that could shake windows, was detailing his custom Harley. He got the alert. He stopped whistling. He put down his cloth. He put on his cut, his leather vest covered with patches and pins, and walked into his clubhouse main room. He picked up a microphone. "Listen up, Old Guard is active. Everyone, now we roll in 10. The room, full of men playing pool and watching TV, exploded into motion. But Joker added, grinning just a little, "And someone call Becky's Bakery. Tell her we need all the coffee and donuts she's got. It's gonna be a long day." David Preacher Jones, a man who ran a legit auto shop chain, got the alert in his office. He closed a deal on a new property with a polite smile. "We'll sign tomorrow, gentlemen. A family matter has come up." He walked out, slipping on a weathered leather vest over his expensive shirt. His employees, mechanics in clean uniforms, saw him and began shutting down bays, following him out. They came on bikes that were masterpieces of chrome and noise, and in quiet SUVs and work vans. They came from tow truck companies, construction sites, and corporate offices. They were not just enforcers, they were a network. Within 45 minutes of Elijah's call, the first 50 members arrived on Myers Street. They formed a respectful perimeter, talking quietly to the stunned police who had just arrived. Doc pulled up in a black SUV. He walked straight to Rita, who was sobbing on the porch. and Elijah, who stood straight as a soldier beside her. Doc nodded to Elijah, "Brother." Elijah nodded back, eyes glistening. "Doc, find her." "We will." Doc turned to Rita. "Ma'am, my name is Daniel. Your daughter Maya, what was she wearing?" Rita, through tears, described the purple t-shirt, the blue shorts, the rainbow sneakers. Doc relayed it into his phone. The description spread instantly through the network. Then the strategy began. This wasn't about violence. Not yet, it was about pressure. Joker coordinated with men who knew the city's traffic systems. Tow trucks driven by prospects were deliberately disabled at key intersections, creating controlled gridlock. Construction crews affiliated with the club closed roads for emergency repairs. The city's underbelly, the world of informants and street dealers, was squeezed. Quiet, terrifying conversations were had in alleyways. A little girl. "Rainbow sneakers. Talk now, or we shut down everything you have." The kidnappers, Leo and his boss, a cruel man named Victor, were holed up in a rundown house in a bad neighborhood. They thought they were safe. Victor looked out the window. "Why is there no traffic? Where are all the cars?" Leo checked his phone. "My guy downtown says the streets are jammed. Tow trucks everywhere. It's weird." Victor felt the first trickle of cold fear. Move the girl, now, to the secondary spot. But when Leo went to the back room where Maya was tied to a chair, he found her not crying, but staring at him with fierce, hateful eyes. "My grandpa is coming for you," she whispered. "Shut up, kid," Leo said, but his hand shook as he untied her. Back on Maya's street, the number of bikes and vehicles grew to hundreds. The rumble was a constant, angry heartbeat. News helicopters circled overhead. The police captain was on the phone with the mayor. "No, sir, they're not causing trouble. They're helping. They've set up a donation station for water. They have a better communication net than we do. I think they're locking the city down to trap someone." Doc was in a makeshift command center in a converted RV. A young tech-savvy prospect named Paul was tracking cell data, filtering for patterns. "Doc," Paul said, his voice excited. "We got a ping, burn a phone. It was near the snatch site. Now it's moving but slow, gridlock's working. They're trapped in the southeast quadrant." Doc looked at a large map on the screen. He pointed to a choke point. "Here, they'll try to cut through the old industrial park. It's the only clear route left." He got on the radio. "Joker, take Prospect Crew 3, block the west entrance to the Morgan Industrial Park. Preacher, you have the east, box them in. Do not engage, just contain. We need the girls safe." The operation moved with military precision. Victor's van, with Maya inside, was indeed crawling towards the industrial park. Victor was sweating. Something is wrong. This was a simple job. Suddenly, ahead of them, a large tow truck pulled across the road, completely blocking it. Victor swore, "Reverse, go back." But as his driver reversed, they saw in the rearview mirror two massive Harley-Davidson motorcycles roll to a stop, blocking the road behind them. The riders, Joker and another huge man named Mark, just sat there, arms crossed, looking at the van. They were trapped. Victor panicked. "The girl, she's the key, they want her." He pulled a gun and turned to the back. "We use her as a shield." Inside the van, Maya saw the gun and froze in fear. Outside, Doc's SUV arrived silently. He got out, followed by two serious-faced men. He walked calmly towards the van, right into the potential line of fire. The police, now cordoning the area from a distance, held their breath. Doc stopped 10 feet from the van. He spoke, his voice calm but carrying. "Victor, I know it's you in there. Open the door, send the girl out. Now." Victor shouted from inside, "You come closer, I hurt the girl." Doc's expression didn't change. "You hurt one hair on that child's head," he said, his voice dropping to a deadly quiet tone, "and not one of the 2,500 men here will let you see a courtroom. Your choice. A quick police arrest, or a very, very long goodbye." The silence was heavy. Seconds ticked by. Then the van's back door handle clicked. It swung open slowly. Leo, pale and shaking, pushed Maya out. She stumbled onto the asphalt, her rainbow sneakers bright in the gloomy industrial park. "Run to the man, baby," Doc said, his voice softening just for her. Maya ran. She sprinted straight into Doc's arms. He picked her up, shielding her eyes from the van. "You're safe, little one. Grandpa's waiting." At that moment, police swarmed the van, pulling Victor and Leo out. The threat was over. The ride back to Maya's street was quiet. Doc held Maya in the back of the SUV, letting her cry into his leather vest. When they turned onto her street, Maya's eyes went wide. Thousands of people, bikers, neighbors, police, news crews were there, but they parted like a sea. And there at the center stood Elijah and Rita. Maya scrambled out of the car and ran. "Mom, Grandpa." Rita fell to her knees, clutching her daughter, weeping uncontrollably. Elijah placed a trembling hand on Maya's head, then looked over at Doc, who stood by his SUV. The two old men from different worlds locked eyes. A nod passed between them, a promise kept. The crowd erupted in cheers. Joker started passing out donuts from Becky's bakery to everyone, cops, bikers, reporters. "See," he boomed to a young police officer. "We are all on the same side today, kid, donut." The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and purple. The bikes started to rumble to life, not in anger, but in departure. One by one, they rode past Maya's house, each rider giving a small nod or a wave to the little girl on the porch, who was now sipping hot chocolate, safe in her mother's arms. The old guard had done its duty. The Empire hadn't been given up. It had been used for one day to protect the most innocent member of its extended family. The debt was paid, but the bond, as solid as steel and chrome, remained. The story wasn't over, not really. The headlines screamed, 2,500 Angels Swarm City Rescue Girl. For a week, Maya's house was surrounded by flowers, stuffed animals, and news vans. Rita kept Maya close, her nerves still raw. Elijah slept better, but a deep, cold anger had settled in his bones. Someone had ordered the grab. Victor was a middleman. At the clubhouse, a different kind of meeting was happening. It was in the back room, the walls lined with photos of old bikes and older men. Doc, Joker, Preacher, and a few other senior members sat around a heavy oak table. The mood was serious, but not grim. "We squeezed Victor's crew dry," Preacher said, his voice calm. "The order came from out of state. A man named Carl runs a trucking company. He was targeting kids from certain neighborhoods, thinking no one would make a big fuss." Doc steepled his fingers. "Carl doesn't know about the old guard. He just saw an opportunity." Joker cracked his knuckles, a loud sound in the quiet room. "So we educate him." "No," Doc said, a small smile playing on his lips. "We bankrupt him. We don't give up our empire, gentlemen. We use it, legitimately." He laid out a plan. Carl's trucking business relied on certain routes, certain warehouses, certain relaxed officials. The club's network, their legitimate businesses in logistics, construction, and law would apply pressure. They would outbid him on contracts. Their contacts in City Hall would suddenly find safety violations at his docks. Their lawyers would hit him with lawsuits from injured employees. It would be a quiet, total financial war. And Doc added, "We make sure every other bottom feeder in the country knows why Carl is losing everything. The story spreads. The protection extends." The men nodded. This was their world. This was how they ruled. Meanwhile, life tried to return to normal. Maya went back to school with a security detail, a friendly, huge prospect named Mark who pretended to be a crossing guard. He wore a neon vest over his cut and made silly faces at the kids. Maya's friends thought he was the coolest. One afternoon, Elena, Doc's girlfriend, showed up at Rita's door. She carried a casserole dish and a bottle of wine. "I'm Elena, Daniel's friend. He's busy being important. I thought you could use some non-important company." Rita, hesitant, let her in. Elena was warm and funny. She didn't talk about bikes or danger. She talked about bad movies and good recipes. She made Rita laugh. When Maya came home, Elena showed her a magic trick with a coin. "My abuela taught me that," she said, winking. Over wine that evening, Rita confessed her fear. "How do I ever let her out of my sight again?" Elena put down her glass. "You don't, Mija, not yet, but you build a bigger circle. You let people in, like that big oaf Mark on the corner, like me, like Daniel and the others. The circle around Maya is very, very big now." Rita felt a weight lift. She wasn't alone. A chemistry was sparking elsewhere too. Paul, the young tech prospect who had tracked the burner phone, was tasked with upgrading Elijah's home security. He was shy, brilliant with wires, and painfully awkward around Stella, Elijah's home health nurse, who was all sunshine and efficiency. "Just put the cameras where they can see, honey, not where they'll look ugly," Stella instructed, hands on her hips. Paul, balancing on a ladder, blushed. "Yes, ma'am. The optimal field of view considers both coverage and aesthetics." Stella laughed, a warm, rich sound. "You talk like a manual, just call me Stella." As Paul worked, Stella helped Elijah with his exercises. "You showed them all, Mr. Elijah," she said, getting his arm. "Just kept a promise," he grunted. Paul watched them. He saw the respect, the history. It made him stand a little taller in his prospect cut. He wasn't just in a club, he was part of a family. When he finished, Stella offered him lemonade. Their fingers brushed. He almost dropped the glass. "Sorry," he mumbled. "Don't be," Stella smiled. "It's nice to meet a man who's brave enough to face down criminals but scared of a pretty girl." Paul's face turned crimson. Elijah chuckled from his armchair. "You're in trouble now, son." The plan against Carl moved silently. In a city council meeting, a contract for warehouse maintenance was awarded to Preacher's Auto and Fabrication instead of Carl's company. The bid was only 1% lower. It was clean, legal, a business decision. At the docks, a surprise inspection by city fire marshals, prompted by an anonymous tip, found major code violations in Carl's primary storage unit. It was shut down. Fines were levied. Carl called his contacts. They didn't answer. The word was out. He had touched protected property. The old guard's reach was long and its memory longer. Frustrated and losing money fast, Carl made a stupid move. He hired 2 new thugs to send a message, not to the club, that would be suicide. He targeted what he thought was a weak link, Rita. One evening, as Rita was closing the blinds, she saw a car parked across the street with 2 men inside. It hadn't moved for an hour. Her blood ran cold. She called Elena, trying to keep her voice steady. Elena didn't call Doc, who was in a crucial meeting. She called Joker. "Joke, Rita's got watchers, can you be?" Subtly terrifying. Joker grinned. "My specialty." 15 minutes later, a roaring sound filled the street. Not an army of bikes, just one. Joker on his massive, gleaming Harley pulled up right next to the suspicious car. He killed the engine. He was wearing shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, a comical look on his huge frame. He got off his bike, pulled out a spray bottle and a rag, and started lovingly cleaning his handlebars, whistling. Then he noticed the men in the car. He walked over, tapped on the window. The driver, nervous, rolled it down. "Nice evening," Joker said, his smile friendly but not reaching his eyes. "You fellas lost? This is a real quiet neighborhood. Families, kids, like the little girl who lives right there." He pointed to Rita's house. "We all love that little girl. We check on her all the time, you understand." The driver just nodded, pale. "Good," Joker clapped his hands, making them jump. "Now why don't you tell your boss, Carl, that his trucking business in Ohio, the one he thinks is secret, the fuel tanker contract is falling through tomorrow. He should check his email." Joker's smile vanished. "Now drive, and if I see you again, I won't be washing my bike." The car sped off. Joker waved cheerfully at Rita's window. Then he got back on his bike and rode away, still whistling. Rita texted Elena, "Watcher's gone." Joker came. He was bizarrely effective. Elena replied, "Told you, bigger circle." Doc's war was almost won. Carl, hemorrhaging money and cut off from all sides, was desperate. He decided to run, but the club knew. Paul tracked his financials. Saw the plane ticket purchase. The night before Carl's flight, Doc and Preacher paid a visit to his nearly empty office. No violence. They just walked in. Carl reached for a drawer. "Don't," Preacher said softly. "We're not here for that. We are here to give you a gift." Doc placed a single photo on Carl's desk. It was Maya, laughing on a swing, her rainbow sneakers a blur. "That's the life you tried to steal," Doc said. "Look at it." Carl stared, sweating. "We ruined you," Doc continued, his voice conversational. You have nothing left. The plane ticket you bought. The pilot works for a charter company we own a piece of. You're not going anywhere. The police will be here in the morning. You'll go to jail for a long time. That's our gift. A chance to live. Because if you ever get out and think of coming near that girl or anyone like her, we won't call the police. We'll call the old guard, and there will be no meeting. Do you understand the difference? Carl understood. He slumped in his chair, defeated. The next morning, the police arrested Carl on charges of conspiracy and attempted kidnapping, built on the evidence Victor had given up to avoid the club's alternative justice. A month later, the club threw a barbecue, a real one, not at the clubhouse, but at a big park they'd rented out. It was for families. There were grills smoking, kids playing softball, music playing. It looked like any big family reunion. Maya ran around with other kids, playing tag. She was just a kid again. Elijah sat at a picnic table with Doc, drinking iced tea. "Thank you, Daniel," Elijah said, "for everything." Doc shook his head. "The debt was mine, Elijah. You saved my father's life. You gave him shelter when the world spat on him for the patches he wore. This was just interest." Near the grills, Joker was wearing an apron that said "Kiss the Cook" and arguing playfully with Alina about the right way to season burgers. "You need more paprika," she insisted. "Woman, this is an art form," Joker bellowed, but he added the paprika. Paul and Stella sat on a blanket, sharing a plate. He was telling her about firewall encryption. She was listening, actually listening, and stealing fries from his plate. Rita stood with Preacher, looking at the scene. "I never thought this would be my life," she said. Preacher smiled. "Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who shows up. And sometimes they show up on two wheels, making a ridiculous amount of noise." As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold, Doc stood up. He tapped a spoon on his glass. The crowd quieted. Even the kids stopped. He didn't give a big speech. He just raised his glass. "To family," he said, his eyes finding Maya, then Elijah, then Rita, then moving over the faces of his brothers, their wives, their kids. "To the old guard, and to peace." A chorus of "to family" rang out. Maya ran over and hugged Doc around the waist. He put a big, gentle hand on her head. The circle was complete. The empire stood, not just in strength, but in peace. Peace for them was a busy thing. It didn't mean sitting still. It meant watching. It meant building. The barbecue was a celebration, but the next day, the machine kept running. At the auto shop, Preacher met with a city official about a new youth outreach program. "We'll provide the tools, the space," Preacher said, his hands clean, his shirt crisp. "Kids from the neighborhoods, they can learn mechanics, a trade, keep their hands busy." The official, who knew who he was dealing with, nodded eagerly. It was good PR, but it was also real. It was part of the circle. Joker's chapter started a Santa's Garage toy drive for Christmas, months early. Bikers in beards and cuts collected teddy bears instead of causing trouble. The local news did a sweet, funny story on it. Joker hammed it up for the camera, holding a pink unicorn plushie. "What?" he boomed. "I've got a sensitive side." The footage got thousands of likes online. And Paul and Stella, they went on a real date. Paul was so nervous he showed up to the restaurant on his motorcycle, still in his prospect cut. Stella arrived in a simple yellow dress. She took one look at him, walked over, and kissed him on the cheek. "You look handsome," she said. Paul's nervousness melted. They talked for hours. He told her about his dream of starting a legit security company. She told him about her dream of opening a community clinic. By the end of the night, their dreams were mixing together. But in the heart of the club, the core business, respect, power, protection, still hummed. One evening, Doc sat in his condo with Alina. She was looking at property listings on a tablet. "This one has a garden," she said, pointing. Doc looked, "Big fence." "Of course, for the grandkids." She said it casually, but her eyes flicked up to meet his. There was a question there, a future. Before Doc could answer, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an old associate in Nevada. It was just 2 words: movement, the Cobras. The Cobras were a small, nasty gang from a neighboring state. They were into drugs, guns, cheap theft. They had heard about Carl's downfall, but they didn't understand the reason. They just saw weakness. They thought the angels had gone soft, playing with toys and hosting barbecues. They decided to test the territory. They started selling their bad drugs on a street corner that was under the protection of a small, legitimate business owned by an angel's cousin. This was a direct challenge, not to a person, but to the system. Doc called a meeting. It was in the clubhouse again. The mood was different this time. It was cold, focused. "The Cobras are flies," Doc said, packing. "Stupid, annoying. They don't know about Maya. They don't know about the old guard. They just see a chance. We need to swat them, not with a war, with a lesson." Mark, the big prospect who had guarded Maya's schools, spoke up. "Let me handle it. Simple, a visit." Doc shook his head. "No, we use the playbook. We don't give up our empire. We show them what the empire is." The plan was elegant and ruthless. It happened in 3 acts, all in one day. Act 1, the squeeze. At 9 a.m., every business in a 3-block radius of the Cobra's corner, the laundromat, the bodega, the nail salon, got a surprise visit from city health inspectors and building code officers. These were real officials, but their visits were prompted by concerned citizen calls from the club's network. Minor violations were found everywhere. The message was clear: this area is now under microscope. The Cobra's customers vanished. Act 2, the alternative. By noon, a free community health van, funded by a charity the club supported, parked right across from the Cobra's corner. Nurse Stella was there, wearing her scrubs, offering free checkups. She was sunshine and professionalism. "Hello, honey, need your blood pressure checked," she called to people on the street. It drove the lurking Cobras crazy. They couldn't operate with a nurse and a line of old ladies watching. Act 3, the conversation. At dusk, Preacher and Joker arrived, not on roaring bikes, in Preacher's quiet sedan. They got out, dressed in nice slacks and jackets. They looked like businessmen. The 2 Cobras on the corner, skinny guys in baggy clothes, puffed out their chests. Preacher walked up, a file folder in his hand. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice polite, "my name is David. This is James. We represent the Neighborhood Improvement Association." One Cobra sneered. "We don't care about your association." "You will," Joker said, his voice cheerful. He pointed to the health van. "See that? That's part of it. We're improving things. We don't like your product. It lowers the property values." The Cobra laughed. "You gonna stop us?" Preacher opened the folder. He showed them a photo. It was of a nice house in the suburbs. "This is where your leader Tony lives, with his mother. She has a lovely rose garden." He showed another paper. "This is the deed to his mother's house. The mortgage was paid off last week by a holding company we own." He showed another. "This is Tony's parole agreement. He's not allowed to associate with known gang members like you two." The Cobra's bravado faded, replaced by confusion and fear. "The lesson," Preacher said, closing the folder. "We don't fight you for the street corner. We own the street. We own the inspectors who shut down the businesses. We own the charity that helps the people. We might even own the house your boss's mom lives in. You are not in a war. You are in the way of a community garden project. You will leave this city by tomorrow morning. If you don't, we will not come back with guns. We will come back with lawyers and social workers and tax auditors. And you will have nothing, not even the clothes on your back. Do you understand the difference?" The Cobras understood. They were gone by morning. The news never reported a thing. It was just another quiet day. Back at the heart of the circle, life grew. Paul proposed to Stella in Elijah's garage, with the old man as his witness. He did it surrounded by the smell of oil and history. She said yes. Maya started middle school. She still had a shadow sometimes, Mark or another prospect, but they were just big friends now. She joined the robotics club. Paul helped her build her first robot. One night, months after the kidnapping, Rita had a nightmare. She woke up crying. She went to check on Maya, who was sleeping peacefully, a stuffed bear from the toy drive in her arms. Rita went to the kitchen for water. She saw a shadow outside. For a second, panic froze her. Then she saw it was just Doc, sitting on his SUV parked down the street, a silent, dark silhouette under the streetlight. He wasn't looking at her house. He was just there, watching the night, keeping the circle. Rita didn't wave. She just watched him for a moment, then went back to bed. For the first time, she slept all the way through the night. The final piece clicked into place on Elijah's 86th birthday. The club threw him a party at the park again. It was bigger this time. All the chapters for miles around sent representatives. There were hundreds of people. Maya stood on a picnic table. She had a present for her grandpa. It was a drawing. She unfolded it. It was a detailed picture of a motorcycle, but it wasn't just any motorcycle. It had wings on the front, like an old angel pin, and sitting on it, drawn in careful crayon, was a little girl with rainbow sneakers and an old man with a mechanic's hat. Above it, she had written, "The Old Guard." The crowd of hardened bikers, their families, their friends, fell completely silent. Some of the toughest men there had tears in their eyes. Elijah took the drawing, his hands trembling. He looked at it for a long time. Then he looked at Maya, then at Doc. "This," he said, his voice strong and clear, "is the only treasure that matters." Doc walked over. He put an arm around Elijah's shoulders. He looked out at his empire, not at the bikes or the cuts, but at the faces. At Joker holding a toddler on his shoulders. At Preacher talking with city councilmen. At Paul and Stella holding hands. At Rita smiling, finally relaxed. At Maya beaming with pride. "The debt is paid, Elijah," Doc said quietly, "but the family is forever. The Old Guard isn't a protocol, it's this." He gestured to all of them. "It's the circle, and it's unbroken." That night, as the party wound down, the bikes started to rumble to life. They lined up, not for a war ride, but for a tribute ride. They were going to ride slowly through the city, a parade of light and sound, just to show they were there. A promise, rolling on two wheels. Maya and Elijah stood at the front, given headphones to protect their ears. Doc helped Elijah onto the back of his own custom bike. He settled Maya in front of him, her small hands on the handlebars. "Ready?" Doc asked, his voice gentle. "Ready," Maya said, her eyes wide with excitement. Doc looked at Elijah in the rearview mirror. The old man nodded, a soldier going on one last, peaceful patrol. Doc kicked the bike to life. The engine roared, a powerful, clean sound. Behind him, one by one, hundreds of other engines roared in answer. It was a thunder of peace. They pulled slowly onto the street. The line of motorcycles stretched for blocks, their headlights cutting through the dark. People came out on their porches to watch. They didn't look afraid. They waved. Kids cheered. Maya, safe between the two men who represented her past and her fierce, unexpected future, smiled the whole way. She was home. The circle was complete. The empire stood, not in shadows, but in the light of 1,000 headlights protecting its own. Thank you for watching. Would you have the courage to call the most unlikely heroes for help? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and hit subscribe. You won't want to miss the next story of unexpected protection.